Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 187, and today we're going to be doing battle in the Darkin Saga Awakening seasonal tournament. And so if you're wanting to skip ahead to the gameplay, we're going to be playing the three decks on the screen. We're going to be playing Fizz Riven, Misfortune Swain Pirates, and Poppy Taric. And so the way we always handle these best of three videos are, I'll talk about our best of three strategy, but I'm not going to get into the individual deck lists themselves too much. I'll call out the oddities in our lists, the things you may not normally see, but if you're looking for a gameplay guide, you can just scroll back through the channel a little bit. And that does make me want to say thank you for the daily followers. I know it's been rough having to watch me play these same decks for the past 4, 5, 6 videos in a row, but I do appreciate those of you all that stuck through, went through the depths with us, and allowed me to continue to practice for this event with these decks. I'd love to come out and just play different decks in every video, but sometimes that's just not possible. And so thanks for sticking along. I hope we have a bit of success today, get a little bit of payoff for those videos that we did there. And so the idea with this lineup is everything is centered on Nami Ionia, whether or not that's Nami Twisted Fate or Nami Lee Sin. It was probably the best deck in the format before the 316 patch hit. The 316 patch completely missed it. And then the big risers out of 316, all of the Swain decks, and then the various Fiora decks, they all have fairly weak matchups against Nami Ionia. And so I expect it to kind of be out in full force. A lot of the pros love it. A lot of the pros recommend it. My problem with it is it's just not a deck that we play. I've probably played like 4 or 5 games with it, and it's not one that you can just like pick up and understand how the angles work. And so with that in mind, I was looking to play a set of cards that was good against Nami Twisted Fate while not playing it itself, and then hopefully we'll be able to just ban out something else that's going to be kind of weaker to our lineup. And so that is the idea. The other kind of piece and puzzle to this format is I feel like you have a couple of more questions to ask. The first is, how are you going to play Swain? Even with Swain being weak to Nami, I feel like you have to be playing him. He's just so ultra and super important. But I don't like the Swain Twisted Fate decks. I just don't like how they play out. It's not my style. I don't enjoy them. So that's why we're playing the Swain Pirates deck. And then I feel like you have to kind of make a decision with Demacia Targon as to, do you want to play Poppy Taric, or do you want to play some version of Pantheon, or do you want to play some version of Fiora? I feel like that's going to be kind of even between Poppy Taric and Fiora Pantheon, and I just prefer Poppy Taric. It's a deck that's we've played kind of extensively. We brought it into the last seasonals. We play it quite often in the Gauntlet. And it's something that I'm just much more familiar with, and I've never really enjoyed the gameplay patterns of Pantheon decks or Fiora decks. And so, for me personally, it's a fairly easy choice. I'm a firm believer of in big events like this, just playing decks that you like, things that you're comfortable with, a deck that you're not going to be like, oh, fuck, it's like round 4, and I have to play 5 more rounds with these decks that I hate. Like, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so, even if a deck isn't objectively the best one for the format or objectively the best one for the event, if you're not having fun playing that deck, then you're just not going to succeed. And so, while I think Fiora Pantheon probably would be a little bit more successful in this event, I'm just a much bigger fan of playing Poppy Taric, because I really like the deck itself and the play interactions and the combos that you run through with it. And so this is our lineup. A couple of things to go ahead and bring up. I did put together the matchup table. It's not nearly as good as I would like it to typically be, because there are just blanks everywhere with Fizz Riven. I looked all over the place for the various Fizz Riven stats. I looked at Balco's site. I looked at Legna's site. I went to runeterra.ar, and it's just not really out there. Nobody's playing this right now, so the stats aren't existent. But we do have the important ones as far as Fizz Riven is concerned, knowing that it's a good matchup up here in the top left against Nami, and it's a weak to not horrible matchup against both Fiora Pantheon and Swain Twisted Fate. Everything else, the decks that have typically caused Fizz Riven problems would be things like Scouts. If your opponent's going to come out and play a bunch of Challengers, that tends to be problematic. If they're able to say, like take down a Fizz and then threaten your other units without losing anything, that tends to be pretty problematic as well. And so we will kind of keep that in the back of our head. We don't really want to be playing against these Demacia-based Challengers decks, but if we have to, it's not the end of the world. And so I feel like the big takeaways out of looking at this matchup table set up here is our general idea, our main plan is to just ban Swain. I feel like everyone is probably going to be bringing Swain Twisted Fate immediately after Nami Lee Sin or Nami Twisted Fate. And so the Swain deck is the one to be aware of. My big takeaway with Swain as well, the matchups aren't spectacular. It's doable. We can most certainly win, especially when it comes to playing the Fizz Riven deck. Fizz Riven does tend to give it a bit of a pain, especially if you're not familiar with the lines that Fizz Riven is bringing at you. And so I feel like if we have to leave it up, it's okay. The thing that is going to really push me to potentially not banning Swain Twisted Fate is going to be the actual Fiora Pantheon deck. The matchups here just aren't very good. We don't have a lot of like Hail Marys to coming in and winning the matchups, and so I'm pretty okay with banning out really any flavor of Pantheon if it comes down to it. But Action Pantheon is not as scary as Fiora Pantheon, and so this is kind of the general idea up here on the top levels of the decks, in that if we have to play against Nami, great, we're leaving it up. If we have to play against Swain Twisted Fate, we're probably going to ban it, but the ban to Swain Twisted Fate won't happen if Fiora Pantheon is there. And I suspect that in probably like 80% of our matchups, this will be the case that happens. We'll either see both Fiora Pantheon, Swain Twisted Fate, or we'll only see one or the other. And so I think we should be pretty okay in terms of the bans there. Against the remainder of the format, if you want to take a quick peek at these in the fast section down here, this is your aggro decks. We'll never be banning these out. If we run into like a triple aggro lineup, then we would probably look to be banning scouts if that's a piece of it. Fizz Riven is historically terrible against all of these style of decks. It's just you get yourself into like this really must-win race scenario, and their race situations are just much more consistent than what we're able to bring. And so I don't suspect we'll see too much of the triple aggro lineup, but in best of 3, it's always a thing. It's always there. Someone always plays it. And if that's the idea, we'll probably just try to ban their Scouts deck. Up in the mid-rangey section, I suppose that these would be decks that we're just never going to ban. They're a bunch of decks that are pretty good against Poppy Taric. They're pretty bad against Swain, and for the most part, they're also pretty bad against Fizz Riven. And so if we're playing against like Daybreak, right? Daybreak can't do fuck all against Fizz Riven. if we're trying to put these big like Papercraft Dragon combo kills on the board, and the best that they can do is Sunburst, it's just a bad day for them. We'll have to see if they've kind of like moved into playing Hushes, but that is something that we typically have a pretty safe time with Fizz Riven. The Swain matchups are good, and then the Taric matchups aren't great, but that's something that we just have to live with. Up here in the slow section, this is where all the various Shadow ILZ-based removal decks tend to live. And with these, in large part, it's something else we'll probably just never ban. But it also kind of depends on the matchup. Things like the Tri-Beam decks are quite bad in terms of being able to shut down Fizz Riven, as to where things that are playing like Vile Feast plus Vengeance tend to be a little bit better. And so, again, this section, there's some weaker matchups, the Heimerdinger Jaces, the Tri-Beam decks, but I don't think it's something that we'll be commonly banning. And then if they do show up, it's probably in like a triple control deck lineup that probably doesn't have Fiora Pantheon or Swain Twisted Fate in it. And so even if worst comes to worst in this situation, we can leave Swain Twisted Fate up. And so that's the kind of idea. That's what we're working with here in terms of our deck list and what's happening with the lineup. In terms of the decks themselves, Fizz Riven might be new to you since it hasn't been particularly popular for a few seasons, but I think the big things happening with Fizz Riven are with the Assistant Librarian. This is, I feel like, a must-play over the Yordle Squires. You do run into these games to where you just don't draw a Fizz or you don't draw a Riven, and you need this additional unit to just load up on and go for the combo kill. And then it also works quite strongly against Nami Twisted Fate in that stacking up on a single unit is extremely dangerous. That's what our deck typically wants to do, and that's what their deck combats pretty well, between being able to send things back to your hand with Will of Ionia, stuns with Concussive Palms, gold cards, whatever. You sometimes find yourself in these spots to where you say, like, well, I don't have the Fizz protection to deal with that, so I need to go wide. And the Assistant Librarian gives you a lot of those games to where it can just come in and win, to where you wouldn't get that out of like a Yordle Squire. To me, the big point of contention here is how many Papercraft Dragons do you play? It's not at its peak in this format. It's a kind of a scary card to play against Nami Twisted Fate, but it's something that's still quite good against all of the slow decks and all of the mid-rangey decks. And so I've still left it at 3 copies. Hopefully we just don't draw multiple copies against Nami Twisted Fate, but I think the games to where you really need a Papercraft Dragon and can't find it are much worse than the games to where you actually draw 2 and it clogs up your hand too much. And so I'm willing to risk the clog as opposed to never drawing it, and we're running the full 3 copies for those mid-rangey style matchups. Into the middle deck here, Misfortune Swain. The big thing that we're bringing here is the single copy of Heavy Metal. You don't always see Heavy Metal coming in. I have been quite a fan of having access to this equipment removal in the format, especially in these matchups to where when you're playing ladder, you can kind of ignore action to a degree, but action is going to be a very real part of the format in best of 3. And so having access to a single copy of Heavy Metal getting searched up by Zap is quite nice. The other thing that we're doing here is playing Shell Shockers. It's not a common thing that you see in ladder decks. It gets into real problems against against Twisted Fate Swain, where they're playing Twisted Fates and they're playing Make It Rains and all the AoE to be taking these downs. But with the idea that we're going to be banning out Twisted Fate, it makes the Shell Shocker a much more reliable option. And it gives us much more explosive draws to where we can curve out very early and then drop the Eye of Nagakaboros on turn 4 with a big open attack or whatever. It gives us a little bit of swing that way. The last thing in here is a single copy of Ionian Hookmaster. This is our additional late game, right? We sometimes need to just spew those equipment out over and over again as a means of generating a bit of card advantage. I wanted something that was good late, but we were initially playing Riptide Rex, and it was just too slow. The Ionian Hookmaster is our kind of concession that I want to have something a little bit late game that isn't the Riptide Rex, and it gives us something to spend our mana on over and over in case we kind of get into a grind fest. Last but not least, we're playing Poppy Taric. I feel like the list here is fairly straightforward. We're not playing anything like Brightsteel Protector. I don't like the 1-drops either. I don't like the Faded Unit. I don't like the Crystal Ibex. But I do think that you need a nice collection of 2-drops in there because you can't have these games to where you just stall into turn 3 without playing anything in the first 2 turns. And so I think Tayari is ultimately pretty important. I think he's better than the Brightsteel Protector, and that's what we use to kind of fill out our curve in the mid game. The other thing here is the Darkin Lodestones. I'm pretty happy with 2, but it's definitely better than 0. I do not agree with that on not playing the Lodestone. Just having the good early, good late aspects of this are just way too important to be passing up on. And so that's it. That's the lineup we're going to be bringing. But you all know what we have to do before the battles begin. We have to go and pay the pay-to-win price. And now, to get you up to speed on what's happened here, the Fizz deck, fully loaded in terms of skins, fully loaded in terms of premiums. Nothing needs done here. Look at this. Everything's so premium. Feels so good. Same thing happens over here with Poppy Taric, right? We got all the skins for Poppy and Taric. We got everything in the deck all premium. But we need a little bit of work with the Swain thing. Now, this is where it gets a little easy and a little challenging, right? There's one card in the deck that's not premium. That's the Swain. So we're going to have to come out and turn Swain premium. Price has been paid. I hope you don't get overly nerfed so that we're able to continue to use your premiumness here in the future. And so, welcome Swain. But I feel like we need a little bit more, right? We usually upgrade something in all of our decks in these style of events. And so, it's probably time to upgrade Misfortune. I've been like really reluctant to do it because the arcade skin just isn't my favorite. But, you know, when the time to pay the piper is here, you just got to shell out them coins. And so I'm going to take that Misfortune upgrade as well. For as much as we've played Scouts, it feels, I don't know, kind of bad that we haven't done it up to this point. But we're going to go ahead and unlock that one. Now, the last one. This is a point here for you all at Riot. You Rioters that are listening, the intern, as you watch the video. We like the happy skins, right? We like things that are fun. And this Swain is just too scary. If I take this Infernal Swain, I might get scared. I might have nightmares. And so I can't go for it, right? So we need the happy ones. If you want to see what we want, it's very easy to see with Taric, right? We pull up our Taric. We have the choices over here. What do we go with? Pool Party, or do we go with Corrupted, right? Corrupted looks scary and shit. This is dark. There's all these purple things flying around. I don't know. Look at that. He's all screaming and shit. No, I don't want to deal with that. But if you take a look at the pool party, what a good time he is having. How do we get this pulled up? Can't right-click it when it's on this screen? Well, I assure you, Taric is chiseled. The hair is flowing. The baby oil has him all shiny and everything. He's ready for a good time. Makes me happy, makes him happy, makes everyone happy. And so, Swain, I hope you do us diligently well today. I hope you do us strong. We made you as premium as we can, but that is the extent that Riot will let me do it. And so, that's it. I'm ready for battle. I hope you are too. Let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, we are locked in, ready to go. The buttons have been pushed. I'm getting excited, and so it should be fun. I think we're in for a good set of games today. Again, we're playing that. I guess we're already locked in the lineup. I get a little confused when I record these across multiple days, and so the lineup is still the same. I assure you, it's what it should have been just a few moments ago in the video, and so we're good there. It is kind of interesting though. I've kind of checked up on Balco. Always goes and posts kind of live the results of the various seasonals, since there's the time difference between APAC and Europe and Americas. The APAC tournaments usually, I think it's just done at this point. They're 8 or 9 rounds in if it's not already complete. And so you have a lot of that kind of meta showing up before you play out here in NA. And it looks about like what we expect. It was I was surprised to see Fiora Pantheon as the most popular deck. Again, that's when we're just kind of okay with banning. Hopefully it doesn't turn up too much with Swain. The combo of those two together is a bit weak for us, but I think it feels decent. The right up there beneath that were those Nami decks that we were looking to play against, and so hopefully we're going to be in for a good space. But the button is here. I'm ready. I hope you're ready too. Let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, dude, not bringing any of the matchups we're expecting. What a world we live in, am I right? And so the thing that immediately worries me about this stuff is these aren't matchups that are particularly strong for Fizz Riven. I think when I look at a lineup like this, I'm kind of immediately drawn towards the Annie Jhin. This is a reasonable matchup for us to come in and play against, but it's the one down here at the bottom, right, where we have the two kind of positive matchups against it. But the matchup with Fizz Riven against Annie Jhin is abysmal. I do kind of figure that like Fizz Riven is going to be the one that we have to pull out a game with, and it's like I'm initially kind of like drawn towards this thing, whatever this number is trying to do. What is this deck even trying to do? Is this just all in on flipping Zoe? It's got a bunch of elusives. I'll certainly give it credit for that. I'm really surprised to see things like battle bonds and suit up. The removal package in here looks pretty standard. The fucking game gonna crash? Oh my god, that's usually what happens when oh my god, I think we're okay. That was like a hard crash. Trying to get things pulled back up here, but okay. I think I'm okay with leaving this deck up. It just seems like very kind of exploitable. It doesn't seem super strong to me. I would assume that these other lineups are fairly straightforward. The Annie Katarina Gwen playing the Harrowing, that's fine. Our games don't actually go that late. But then the Annie Jhin, is this going to have weird stuff in it like these other ones do? This one actually looks pretty straightforward. And so it's tough. I think I'm like actually okay with leaving this Annie Jhin up, and then I'm leaning towards just banning the Gwen deck with the assumption that we're going to have to play Fizz Riven into one of these worse matchups, one of these bad matchups. And I think I feel like a little bit better trying to take Fizz Riven up against the Gwen deck than the Annie deck. It's just like if we have ultimately one of these draws that just doesn't come together, doesn't coalesce, we don't go like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 unit against Annie Jhin, then against Annie Jhin, like we can handle it, but you have like a little bit more play coming out of the Gwen deck, although it does only have one Vengeance in it, so it doesn't have a ton. Very unit heavy in this one. It's tough. That's close. Yeah, I think I'm okay though. I think we'll come out and just ban the Gwen deck. This thing is so strange to me. This is like not anything that I was expecting to come out of season. It was just full on elusives with a little bit of burn attached to it. Battle bonds and suit up at the top end. Is this Yuumi, Wandering Shepherd? So we got the way to boost the elusives. He says, "Yo, dog, I heard you like the elusives. So I gotta bring you some elusives on top of your elusives." All right, ban a deck. Gwen, you're gone. Get out of here. And then again, I fully suspect we're gonna have to play the Fizz deck, I'm going to bring it second. I'm just going to go ahead and lead off with Poppy Taric. I've kind of like wavered back and forth over the days as to whether or not I would like to just play the bad deck first so that we get kind of a guaranteed 2 shots with it, or if it's more important to play the good deck first and then maybe get 2 shots afterwards if you win. And I think that just play the good deck first is kind of growing on me a little bit. And so here, a fairly weak start against Annie Jin. You can't be starting with the likes of Esmuth and a bunch of combat tricks. All those cards just kind of come down and don't do anything. And so we did get a nice mulligan that involves a Fleet Feather Tracker. Lets us shut down a bit of this aggression. Hopefully we can just stall the board till our big boys come online. We thankfully have another unit, so we aren't just completely blank to whatever they're doing. And then it was pretty important that he started with Legion Rearguard as opposed to Annie. If we played Annie, she would still be on the board here. The Rearguard, of course, not. I'm sure everyone out there did the mathematics. The Legion Rearguard no longer on the board. I don't think he ever blocks here, so we can go ahead and take this attack for free. Ideally, he won't have a follow-up play. He does, but not the end of the world. Poppy, not exactly what we're looking for, but his board is kind of shut down for the moment. I'm leaning towards just taking the big damage here, and then blocking one of these Crackshot Corsairs with the bird, but doesn't look like we're going to get that opportunity. I was really hoping to have the bird stick around this turn, but we're just going to have to get boomed. So we're basically taking an extra 2 damage. I think I actually like this, though. If we come in, take down the crack shot, we fall to 10, which is kind of low, don't get me wrong, but if he doesn't have any interactivity this turn, and we get to attack with Taric and take down the Crackshot Corsair, then we're looking at a really good spot for the follow-up turn. Still good with Taric. I'd rather add Taric than Poppy. He combats a little bit better. If we attack with Poppy and she dies in combat, it's kind of bad, but it's pretty tough for him to have blockers for Taric this round, to where he can't still block the next turn. Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll have to see how much stuff he adds. We would, of course, like to get one of these bigger units on board, but with having the Concerted Strike in hand, if he, like, opens, we can shoot something down and follow up with Tayari. This all seems okay. I think we might be all right. Have to start worrying about burn mode coming in, but at least as far as this board is concerned, we can stop a lot of it.
As I have mine. I'll become who I was always meant to be.
Oh, brutal. Fucking brutal. We're dead. Well, I guess he could mess it up. We'll make him attack, but this is one of the downsides to coming out and playing against Poppy Taric, or playing against Annie Gwen, is like we were just so close to being able to pull this one down, but we were just a touch short. Our hand was a little bit too awkward. That turn 3 to where all we got to play was a Pale Cascade was a little bit too much to overcome. So that's the worry in coming up against Annie Jin. I still think it's the safe deck to leave up, but you can definitely stumble. But you could see without, if there was only like one stage hand, if that was another unit coming in there, I believe we would have completely won that game. It's just the stage hands or the Arachnoid Sentries getting to 2-for-1 our units is a little bit too much. All right, and so up against this Elusives deck, I don't really want to start with Taric or Ranger's Resolves. I think we need to just pick up the early game interactivity. But the question here is, do we want to hang on to Poppy? Which, if it's kind of okay, but I think I just want to search for another Elusive. I feel like we're going to be trading in a lot of these combats early, and I want to just have a way to try and search for another way to hook in one of these small early type plays. Oh boy. So that's how we're starting today. That's how we're starting, huh? All right. Well, I want to get the Broadwing in. We still have a lot of opportunities to take down whatever his good units are this turn, right? Most of the units in his deck are pretty small. And then we can look to build up to this concerted strike for next turn if we need to. So I'm just going to add in the Laurent Protege. If he wants to, drop some of his elusives, then we should be able to take them down. I feel like if he just passes here, that's probably pretty good for us. And then next turn, we have some options for dealing with Zoe, whether or not that's putting a blocker in front of her with Esmith, or if it's trying to get a concerted strike in. My God. He is super all in on this Zoe. Oh, maybe we can get an Esmith down to block. Sharpsight's big as well. So how do we want to go about this? We're basically just going to be throwing a unit away in front of Zoe. I'm leaning towards just like throwing the Esmith in front. Or do we actually need the Esmith for next turn with the Mountain Sojourners? Mountain Sojourners gives us a way to where we can potentially take this Zoe down. I don't think this is a game to where we can like legitimately attack around her. And so I think we're going to need to like get a Sojourner's hook into Zoe. And then we can try and take her down the following round. So what I'm basically going with here is like I want to get say like a Fleet Feather tracker on board. I want to hit it with the Sharp Sight, put the Sharp Sighted unit in front of Zoe, add a Esmith this turn, and then see if we can't get something going with the Sojourners next turn. Okay. I guess the other option here with our Sharp Sight is to just make this 5 toughness Broadwing and throw that in front of Zoe. And then we can look to potentially hook her down next turn. It's all scary stuff. Poppy gets the boost, and so I think we're safe here. He was playing the Mystic Shot. I don't think he was playing Pale Cascades. I would have to... I didn't quite gather what all was happening in his list. I don't think he was playing Pale Cascade, but I think he was just playing the burn spells suit up, and he was playing Battle Bonds, and so the Battle Bonds isn't something to worry about here anymore, but we do still have to worry about the burn spells. Okay. I don't know what else to say about that situation.
I demand satisfaction. Hardly fair.
No backing down.
All right, so let's see if we're going to get lethaled. I mean, it's going to be pretty close. He has 11 on board. We only have access to the 1 removal spell. We can't cast that spell onto Zoe. Probably just dead here, but... Oh, that was brutal.
Invisible to the ignorant.
Yep, dead. Oh man, what a start. Poppy Taric just getting brutalized by these burn decks. this was tough. Okay, that's not gonna do it. I think these came down to some like really close spots. I think we did a decent job of preventing all the damage wherever we could. We just had these like little stumbles along the way that shut us down. I think that again that Annie-Jen matchup was quite winnable. If it was just like I think we prevented every damage we could take there. I think our strategy was pretty good. It was just there was the double stuns there at the end of the game, and so I thought we had that set up well. And then this last game with the Moon Silver, I think the Moonglow was probably the only card that could have come out of there to protect in that spot. But man, what a fast one! So we're gonna have to fight hard. We're gonna have to fight strong. Hopefully, we can start to recover out of this spot. I'm not sure how these things tend to go in seasonals. Like I know that when you're kind of looking at the stats, you'll see that Pantheon Taric, Fiora Pantheon is kind of like 40% of the meta. Nami Twisted Fate, Nami Lee Sin's about 40%, but that's across like the entirety of the meta. I'm not sure what happens once you come down here and you just lose in the first round, right? What you kind of see in Magic tournaments is if you like get a draw, right, then the slower control decks of the format tend to be much more likely to get draws. And so if you find yourself in that draw bracket, you tend to just play control matchups all day. I'm curious if there's kind of a break in the Runeterra system here as to where we see a lot more off-meta stuff in these kind of midpoints as opposed to if you're, say, like 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 as to where everyone is pretty much in and on meta. But, tough stuff. Nice takedown from opponent there, bringing the aggro lineup with a bunch of decks we weren't expecting. That was just kind of, it is what it is. I was a little bit worried about an aggro lineup turning up. I know our lineup isn't particularly prepared for it, but that's not the way I was expecting the aggro to be coming at us either, so that was a bit odd. But nonetheless, our opponent was victorious. Well played, well done. Congrats to you. We'll be back for the next one. All right, next battle. See if we can dodge a little bit of that big aggro stuff coming out of here from the Karma Police. And so I feel like this should be a pretty straightforward ban for us. We're, of course, going to leave this Nami Lee Sin up. That's the kind of the whole idea of the lineup. But if you're familiar with the way that we like to do these things, it's typically to just like concede until we get to the Yasuo matchup and then try and beat Yasuo every single time. And so I feel like it's only appropriate to come in and ban out this Gangplank Sejuani, and so that we can come out and try and pick on this this Yasuo Katarina. Our matchups there aren't horrible. I think I've closed my spreadsheet. Let me get it pulled up here again real quick. But I think this would be the kind of safer way to go about it anyways. I know I specifically went and put this back up on the sheet. Yeah, it's a decent match for Misfortune Swain. It's a fairly even matchup for Poppy Taric, a little bit in its favor, but then it probably gives Fizz Riven some fits, and I suspect that's what we're going to be playing here. But our lineup isn't really well geared to deal with this Sejuani Gangplank lineup anyway, so I think that's a fair ban. Let's take a look at these deck lists real quick to see if we're not crazy in what we're thinking. I'm not sure like what a wild Lee Sin deck list looks like as compared to some of the other ones. I know in terms of the things we're kind of thinking of with their interactivity, he has 2 copies of Deny, 1 Concussive Palm, and then I'm assuming 3 copies of Tellstones. Yeah, so that all makes a lot of sense to me. Only 1 copy of Double Trouble, though, to help stop us assemble our width. Then over here with the Yasuo Katarina, again, I'm not ultra certain what should sound really weird here. I did see this Ritual of Renewal immediately pop up, and it is good to know that he has 2 copies of Spirit's Refuge, but looks like he's got, as his protective package here is going to be 2 Nopify, 1 Deny, or 2 Nopify, 2 Deny, and 1 Memories Cloak. And then how did those interactivity packages look? Both of the Ionia decks have triple Tellstones, 2 copies of the Momentous Choice, 1 Steel Tempest just naturally, 3 Concussive Palms. And so again, he has a lot of ways to come in and kind of handle something like Fizz Riven, but these aren't great answers to Fizz, are kind of the important things to at least take away from the Yasuo deck, right? If we're trying to go in with a big Fizz combo, you're not really excited about spending 5 mana on a Homecoming or spending 4 mana on a Concussive Palm. And so we need to kind of keep that in mind with our Fizz deck here. The same thing kind of applies over here with the Nami Lee Sin, and that they only have the 1 Concussive Palm here, no Steel Tempests, and so they don't have great ways to come down and interact with that Fizz. And so I think that'll be kind of one of the key pieces of the matchup, should we get to hang on to our Fizz deck. Otherwise, I think I'm pretty okay with these. The various stuns and things are a bit of a pain in terms of the Poppy Taric deck. Again, was it 2 denies in both of the decks? Yeah, they have 2 across the board. And so he will have access to ways to stop our rallies, but I think we're ready for it. I think we're prepared. So many Ionian Hookmasters today. The unit of the day for opponent's deck list here is the Hookmasters. Very strong. All the momentous choices, all the Hookmasters, all the denies. Who wants to do this stuff? Who really feels good playing all of these Ionia cards? Oh, man. I hope you all have been watching the spoilers and going kind of crazy about what there is to see out there. Lots of new bonuses into Ionia. What are these combat trick packages, though? We should check that out before we dive into this. Are there just like literal no combat tricks in the Yasuo deck? I can't remember if that's standard or not. He just has the counter spells and then the Spirit's Refuges. Whereas in this one, he does have the there was Momentous Choice in this, right? There were 2 copies of Momentous Choice in Yasuo, the full 3 with the Nami deck, and then the Wuju styles. The Wuju styles are what got me to start looking to see if he had the combat tricks out here. And so not a ton from the Yasuo deck. All right, preparation is at 0. I'm prepared. Let's see if this game just breaks again or something. It's like, do we need to go and restart the game again? I had to just restart the whole computer last round. My computer was just fucked, and so it's wild. Is this dude even here? I was curious how much we're going to run into this stuff as people just lose in the first round. My thought in this situation was I'll play until I have 3 losses. I know that I can't make the top cut with 2 losses, but we'll play it out until we have the 3. And okay, so I think I'm happy enough with all of these matchups into Nami. The Pirates matchup is also kind of exceptional into Yasuo. And so I think with this, like, I'm a little worried about the Fizz Riven deck, but let's just lead out with the Pirates, see what it runs up against. It's still Pirates, I assure you. Up into Lee Sin. All right, what you got for me? Hang on to these 1-drops. I'm okay with getting rid of the Fortune Croakers to a degree. It's one of these things where it's like our lowest value play, and I would prefer to come out and find a little bit better early play, like a Mirai Warden or another 1-drop, but still just having access to this really wide curve is something that makes me happy. Picked up another 1-drop anyways, so wasn't that big of a deal. So I am going to go with just the full aggro here. I'm going to drop the Jagged Butcher and the Crusty Codger. Just try and dump in as much damage as we can. It's an interesting draw in the Hookmaster, though, is it does let us play both a Fortune Croaker and a Codger on turn 3. The thing that I was worried about and why I get like a little hesitant with this Fortune Croaker is we want to be spending like all of this early mana on units. But if we play the 2 1-drops now, on turn 3 we aren't as likely to have another 1-drop to go along with it. And so it starts to fall behind a little bit. But happy enough to pick up this Overwhelm one. You could perhaps push in a couple more points of damage here with the Shepherd's one, but it's kind of sketchy. If they drop an early play and we just don't get anything in, it's gonna be pretty painful. I don't suspect he'll block with the Shimon Wind, but I think we're definitely okay if he does. Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised to just see him like bank the rest of the way through here, but the problem we start to run into next turn is that's when he's going to play Twisted Fate. So I don't really want to be adding Fortune Croakers here. What we're going to be looking to do is I'll add the Codger, I'll add the Jagged Butcher, I'll bank 1 mana, and then we'll play the Eye of Nagakaboros and then open attack next turn. If you start to say like, well, let's play for value, let's add in these Fortune Croakers, and it gives the opponent to just AoE our board, and we really start to suffer then. All right, here comes the squad. Give me one of those decimates after this. That's what everybody wants and everybody needs in this spot. Just a little bit of decimate. This looks good to me. I love seeing them have to spend all their mana, have these empty boards. It just keeps them from doing what their deck wants to be doing. His spell count's really low, his attune count's really low. He doesn't have these like oops I win kind of boards to where there's just like 3 and 4 dudes and a Shelly turns up and he overdraws a Nami. Sad day for the Karma Police. Alright, so just a regular Karma comes down. The big thing with this turn is I want to make sure we have a completely full board at the end of the day. And we should probably be getting a Misfortune down this turn as well. So I'm going to start out with the rear guard. We can still like pivot out if we want to say not play Misfortune, add a Fortune Croaker and an Overwhelm equipment, but I'm leaning towards just making sure we get the Misfortune down this turn. Might change our mind depending on his units here. No, these are fantastic things for Misfortune to run into, but the other kind of angles, we do have this heavy metal. We could look to kill one of these units with the heavy metal, but I'm a little hesitant. I do like this as a means to take away their Overwhelm from Lee Sin. And so I'm just going to go in with the Misfortune. Get another open here. We should ideally be hitting for about 5 damage or so, and then get really close to ending the game. The other kind of like perk to adding Misfortune to this board is, I would say under ideal circumstances for opponent, he would be like blocking a 2/2 and keeping his Nami up, but the love tap should kill both of his blockers and then Nami in addition to whatever she wants to get in front of. So I suspect what typically happens here is he's going to block with Nami or something. We'll get 2 of these units in, and then we're going to have the 1 damage from the love tap. So we probably just get about 5 damage in this turn. Text the Nami, though. Okay. All right, let's draw some cards and see if we can't win a game. Interesting with the Make It Rain. Gives us a way to just go ahead and try and kill Nami. Let's see how it goes. Again, like, I don't suspect this angle to actually come out and win the game, but I want him to have to, like, do stuff. I don't want him going into the next turn, having this, like, full bank of mana, being able to drop a couple of elusives and drop a Shelly. Like, that's how we end up losing this game. And so if we can get him to have to spend some stuff this turn, you know, if he has to play a Deny, awesome. If he has to play even like a Momentous Choice that would count as 2 spells for next turn, oh, fantastic. Let's just at least slow this stuff down. Try and keep him away from lethal. All right, dead Nami it is. All right, we didn't pick up any of the real excitement. I was hoping to just pick up something that wasn't a unit. The 2 units were not exactly what we're looking for here, but I don't want to spend the mana right now. But let's give him a chance to like play a Twisted Fate or something before we start adding anything else to the board. Like if we tap out, that does give him the signal that he's in the clear to just kill us, right? There's a very real chance we're actually dead this turn. If he adds a Shelly and then has a Shelly and a bunch of spells to chain off, right? If he has like a Shelly and 2 momentous choices, we're going to lose. And so definitely a lot to actually be worried about here.
My quest is dangerous, but I will see it through. I am the tide caller. I will drive back the dark.
All right, Nami comes in. He's going to need another elusive here, I think. Or I need a Shelly. All right, there's Burblefish number 2. I don't know, man. 7 mana of spells is getting pretty close to dealing like 14 damage.
Ride the surging tide. Let the tide carry you.
So that's 4 more damage in hand, and he has 12 on board. He really just needs 1 more spell. Looks like he may not be going for it. I would think you just have to go for it here. You can't, like, count on deny to stop a...
Ride the surging tide.
Oh boy, just another Wuju style, huh? 16 on board. Looks like we just got boomed. No way he doesn't add the lethal, right? I'll say no way to that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious if we missed a couple points of damage there. We did play that like a little bit conservatively, where we were not playing towards the AoEs and keeping that behind. But ooh, that's always tough when you see them fall so low and you're not able to close out on that game. But all right, on to the Katarina Yasuo. Let's see if we can salvage our day against against the person we give no respect. All right, definitely need to get some early curve out here. We'll cycle all this stuff away. Found something. Really looking for these draws that just push a bunch of units onto the board and not so much have a curve fit to it. Because none of this stuff interacts very well with the with their like 1/3s. Get in there, Fortune Croaker. We're ready for battle. Very make it rain heavy hand. Not a ton of stuff that these actually kill against opponent here.
I don't do meditation.
Reporting in?
Hey, over here!
Alright, it's not the most aggressive of plays, but let's try and shut down this cycle that he's trying to do. Looks like he's kind of trying to turbo level a Yasuo here, but it's a little odd in how that went down. So we have 2 choices here, right? We can add the Zap, which with having drawn a Nox and Fervor and 2 Make It Rains already, it's really limited to just picking up like a 60% chance at the Fervor and then a small chance at the Ravenous Flock, or we could add Misfortune. I'm leaning towards the Misfortune here, and then hoping that we can't get something going with Zap on a follow-up round. The bonus with Misfortune is if he's going to add Yasuo here, he either just has to take a ton of damage because his only good block is on the Fortune Croaker, or he does have to just trade away his Yasuo with the Misfortune while he still takes 6 damage. So it's just like if we come in and play Zap here, we do have some potential for follow-up and taking down a Yasuo if we hit that Ravenous Flock, but this feels a little bit safer in this route for me. Surprised he's tapping Misfortune. He usually has to block here with the Sentry, and you'd probably rather just get the Misfortune off of the board. Oh, Ravenous Flock? Interesting. I don't think he wasn't even playing Ravenous Flock, so.
Follow the wind, but watch your back.
Alright, Yasuo appears, ready to party. Not going to drop our Swain. I'm looking to just get Zap and the rest of these spells going. Just like way too much tempo loss if we add Swain and he starts to hit him with concussive palms and stuff. So let him. He'll come down eventually, just not right there. The open doesn't seem special though. The way that this gets burned is if he has a concussive palm. What's his Yasuo at? 2? And this does still leave us open to playing a lot of these cards. I think this is okay. Like, even if he just has the concussive palm right here, we still have the make it rains to take it down before it gets to deal combat damage. Do we actually want to spend the Misfortune one here? Like, I'm definitely playing Concussive Palm right here. It gives us just the opportunity to now Ravenous Flock the Yasuo. But if we want to play both of them, I don't think this Misfortune's doing anything else this game. Let's see where this gets us. Still leaves us in a spot to where we say, have this Make It Rain land, puts the damage on both of his units, then we flock the Yasuo. He can block with the Tail of the Dragon, but it just dies to the Love Tap. That sounds delightful to me.
Indecision is the first of many weaknesses.
Indecision is the first of many weaknesses. You're right, Swain. You got it. You're so wise. Beyond your years, many would say. Brings in a deny. Okay. So again, this is going to resolve now. He can, if his Tail of the Dragon as a block just dies to whatever it hits, his Yasuo, I would assume, is just going to go in front of Misfortune at this point. But he dies if he gets involved in this combat as well. Falls to 7. He's got a bit of work to do in terms of flipping this Yasuo, so we should be able to look towards a pretty reasonable Ravenous Flock here. Needs more. He needs more than just this stuff. I don't care if we pass into the next turn with just a bank. Let's give it a go. Goodbye, Ravenous Flock. All right, we'll go ahead and play the Eye. It's not awesome to let him see that that's a thing, but I wanted to have full access to all of our mana next turn. So many Swains. So many Swains. So we want to attack with him on the left. He'll flip off of this Misfortune stuff, but if we even didn't have access to Misfortune, we could still look to use Nox and Fervors as a means to get a Swain flip here. All right, here comes all the spells. I would assume that this Swain is most certainly about to be dealt with, but hopefully he's going to have to just spend like 8 mana here on Concussive Palm kind of cards, and we're able to win with the Nox and Fervor. Oh man, all the cards coming at us. So what all is happening here? He's got, looks like he's gonna fall to 3, but man, he's still got 6 mana after all this. I was expecting this to be much more expensive. What is this? A Yasuo and a Steel Tempest? So it looks like one of these Steel Tempests is directed at Zap. So let's go ahead and just throw Zap at the face. I guess the downside to throwing Zap is he can then play another stun that will actually kill him. And so we might want to actually play the Nox and Fervor off of Misfortune. But Misfortune does survive this this onslaught of stuns. I think this is okay, using the Zap. Did we just win this anyways? I'd say he's at neg 14. Oh, whatever he... Oh, okay. That counter spells the... He cast a Ravenous Flock onto Swain, and Swain will survive that after he flips. Gotcha. I was like, well, it looks like we're just dealing infinite damage here. Why isn't any of this working? That makes sense now. Okay. So with that in mind, he probably needed to say like stun Swain, stun Misfortune, Ravenous Flock the Fortune Croaker, and try and get out of it that way. All right. Victory is ours. We're not going this whole event without winning a game. All right, so let's take a quick peek at this again. Now, before we get in here with our Fizz Riven. And so the important things, he was playing Ravenous Flock. I couldn't remember if he even had Ravenous Flocks in here. It's a pretty standard card to have, but the things that we worry about this with Fizz Riven are going to be the various stuns, right? The way that they have to take down our big combats. And it looked like he's got the 3 Concussive Palms, the 3 Will of Ionias, or I guess the 3 Tellstones, so there's 6 there. Hillock, 2 Refuges. Okay. 3 Ravenous Flock, 2 Choice, 3 Tellstones. All right. It's all on you, Fizz Riven. We couldn't manage to take down Nami, so we gotta we gotta do this the hard way. And here, I'm just going to be looking for Reforges. I feel okay cycling away the Conchologist. I really just want this early game collection of Reforge units to try and deal some early chip damage. Like, I think we should pretty safely be able to build up to a Fizz kill here. It's just having that kind of like early game interactive stuff to do, to where your opponent doesn't get to just completely build up and do whatever they want. So we should be able to, pretty safely go for a turn 7 kill with a Papercraft Dragon.
To serve the greater good.
All right, so we'll get started with the Riven. It's going to be like a little unfortunate if we get Riven into combat with the Blade Twirler and then he just kills it with a Ravenous Flock. So we can look to throw down a quick attack fragment this round, just to give her a little protection, make it a little bit more challenging for opponent to get out in front of her. She's healthy enough to get around all of his combat tricks. If he has a momentous choice now, the Riven will survive.
Let the bloodshed begin.
Katarina shows up. Interesting.
Quick as the blade.
Now who's got the upper hand?
So is he just going for a Ravenous Flock play here? That's what it sounds like, but this is a fairly scary Blade Twirler, and we can't really get in front of it, right? We can put Riven in and give her barrier, but he has the Blade's Edge in hand. We can block Katarina with Riven, but then he has the Blade's Edge to take her down after the fact, and I don't really want to spend all that mana this turn. So I think we're okay to just skip this. We are going to get domed. That's okay, though. We can try and block this big Blade Twirler on the next go-around.
Just follow the yellow light. Easy.
And the flock. Sure. So now our question is, do we like really want to get Fizz involved on this upcoming turn? We could, but we only have like the one burst spell at this point. I think I would prefer to just try and count on Fizz to win on the following attack. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass here. Conchologist turns up. Okay. Something interesting in here. Not really. None of these are really interesting. I think we can hang on to the Salt and Stitches. Is that where we really want to go? We definitely like want a spell that we can use to protect Fizz with, right? We're going to go into this next combat with a bunch of spell mana banked up. So I think that we want the Salt and Stitches just in case we need to throw down a blocker.
Astounding curiosities lie ahead.
I'd love to just see a pass happen here. I don't know what he's building up to, but a pass on this turn would feel pretty good. How do we feel about this, though? Like, he gets the Blade's Edge here, yes. But what if we look to add Fizz and then just equip him with the Papercraft next turn? The downside to just adding this Fizz is it lets the opponent try killing with Blade's Edge.
Here's our chance.
Easy does it.
Oof. And so yeah, I'd love to see him play this Blade's Edge now so that we could add our Fizz to the board this turn and then just load up the Papercraft now, but didn't quite come together that way. Yeah, now we're definitely just discarding stuff to get this this Blade Twirler blocked. We can use the Salt and Stitches to get a block there, or, I mean, we can look to just Trinket Trade an Otterpuss onto the board. I think that's probably the way to start it. So it's like, now we have a block.
Try to keep up. Underestimate. I dare you.
Say no thanks to that damage. Can add Fizz. I mean, probably. I could see an argument for just going ahead and adding the Ruined Reckoner as well. But I worry about that to a degree. And that, well, I mean, are we even able to lethal next turn? Right? I guess that's an important question to ask when we're trying to finish this off with the Papercraft. What do we have? This would be 4? 7 would take it to 14? I think we need to add the Reckoner here. This can cause some problems in terms of our mana, but he should just be in kind of like concussive palm mode right now and not be able to force us into spending mana to protect the Fizz. Right, Fizz, here's your shot. Oh, I forgot about that thing bringing stuns in. Yeah, that's kind of scary. All right, do your thing, bro. The worrisome thing here was this dude was physically playing Steel Tempest. And so if he has like Steel Tempest and Concussive Palm, then he has all the mana that it takes to stop our attack here. We're like one short of just attaching the +3 attack and punching in here. Like I missed this stun coming out of the Hillock when he played Katarina. I was kind of anticipating that if he added, a unit, then we would still be able to threaten some damage with the Librarian and with the Reckoner, but it's a little bit too problematic. All right, what is the stun? Concussive Palm. Oh no, this thing has focus? Oh no, we completely picked the wrong one. Fuck. Oh man, that was a real bummer. I guess we should have taken the fast one. Oh fuck. Well, that's gonna be enough to do it. Oh man. Oh, I was like, why can't we play our card? Oh, I guess that makes sense. Oh, we should have taken the Tricksy Tentacles. I've literally never taken that Salt and Stitches, and so that was just too much. Oh man. I don't know if I can continue on after that. I think I'm gonna have to call it there. And so it is always a bummer to start off 0-2, but that's the way it goes for 25% of the field, and that's the way it's gone for us today. And so it's a little unfortunate. I'm not sure if we would have been able to win that last game even had we directed that properly, but. That was tough. It's always a real gut punch to take a loss to Yasuo, and so it was a bit of a struggle. I'm still like kind of okay with our lineup, but it was the real pain point in this is of course not banning out the or not having an idea to ban out the Nami, and so that's like a real kind of like tough point in this meta. As it's just kind of like clearly the best deck, but it's not one that you can kind of come in and just pick up and get 50 games in and be ready to go. You have to be kind of like really in tune with playing the Nami deck, and it's just not something that we've ever really taken the time to do. I was really kind of surprised it didn't get popped in the most recent balance patch. And so I think our strategy was still kind of okay. If we had navigated those matchups a little bit better, at least in this past round, I think we could have had some success. That first round was just kind of I can't say that anyone was really expecting to play against a curve of turn 1 Zoe attack into a turn 2 naturally drawn suit up into a turn 3 a turn 3 Yumi, and then picking up the spell shield to protect her appropriately. That was like a real pain point to have to run across. But I think we could have definitely handled these past and few and final matchups a little bit better. But if we're going to be making pretty egregious errors like picking up the card that we can't play in the middle of combat with our Fizz Riven deck, then that's going to be a real pain point. Now, that's tough too. I was having a pretty reasonable amount of success over these past few days with the Fizz Riven. I just got a little tripped up in there with the focus card and losing it in combat, and that's just not something that you can do. Like, you can make some mistakes in these events, but not at that level. It has to be much less frequent and much less impactful whenever you are not playing perfect, and we just didn't have that here today. And so it's a little unfortunate. I had a good time with the prep. I had a good time with the event. I wish that the event was a little bit more interesting, given the amount of content that we put forth in preparation for it, but that's just kind of the way it goes. And so who knows, the next time we'll get to do one of these things. If you manage to click on the Gauntlet tab, you can see that the next Last Chance Gauntlet is on February the 11th. And so there shouldn't be any more seasonals for, the next 4 months, and so I'm curious how the time will get filled between now and then, or if Riot puts anything else interesting out to do. It's just kind of one of the downfalls that you kind of ran into in playing a game like Hearthstone was the sets were spaced 4 months apart, and the first month was really fun, and the second month was like fun, but it was getting kind of old. And then Blizzard would put out like a minor balance patch between month 2 and month 3. Then that would be cool for about a week. And then the last month was just kind of egregiously like boring. And it was just like you would play the first week and grind into Legend, and then be like, well, there's nothing really else to do. Let me find something else to do for the next 3 weeks. And so I did really kind of like this cadence of the new set comes out and we have stuff to do for a month, and then a balance patch comes out and we have another set of stuff to do for 2 weeks or a month, and then seasonals here, and that's a nice distraction, and then the new sets immediately come out after seasonals. But I hope that they have something kind of in the mix and in the plans for the regular folk between now and this next seasonals that isn't Worlds. I don't want to take away from Worlds. That's spectacular for those 30 people, but for the regular kind of competitors, I hope that there's something here between now and then. Or, I mean, we'll just be grinding out 7. I'm trying to think of how many weeks is in 126 days. We're going to have 10 weeks would be 70. So we'll just call it like 15 weeks. That's over 15 weeks to hit 4 Prime Glories. And so I hope we can manage to do it between now and then. And so, an unfortunate run. I think in terms of our seasonals, we went like 3-3, 3-3, and then this one we went 0-2. I was hoping to start pushing a little bit more upwards into the kind of the 4, the 5, the 6 win area. I didn't really feel confident in our ability to make the top cut, but I was hoping to see a little bit more improvement than this 0-2. And so a little bit of a bummer there, but I had fun with the prep. I had fun with the games, and that's the important thing here. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And so that is going to do it for us today. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Boston. We thank you for being here.